Welcome to 60 Skills. Today's lesson is autosuggestion. Sometimes this is referred to as the Mala method. The reason for this is very simple. The Mala method utilizes a string of beads and a form of self-reinforcement or self-suggestion to change behavior. It is normally performed twice a day, once before sleeping and once before waking. Classically, this was a technique used to correct the behavior of new monks to a monastery organization. The reason for this is simple. Classically speaking, searching for divinity was not usually the reason why people wound up in a monastery. Looking for an education, safety, a guaranteed meal once per day, or perhaps to avoid some kind of legal entanglement. So if you had people coming into your monastery who had a variety of interesting reasons for being there, frequently these people needed help moderating their behavior so they could be a productive part of that organization. This is where the Mala method comes in. In our case, we will be using this as a tool for self-improvement. So I look forward to your joining me on this adventure, and I hope to see you soon. Welcome to 60 Skills. I will now discuss the requirements for performing autosuggestion or the Mala method. Obviously, you will first need a string of beads. A string of 108 beads is more classical in nature, but the fact of the matter is it can be any length of beads. You will be performing this exercise for approximately 10 to 15 minutes twice per day, once in the morning and once in the evening directly before sleep. So you don't actually need a special place to do this, and this is one of the few techniques you can actually do in your bed. The fact of the matter is you don't want to have to go anywhere or do anything after you engage this in the evening. And in the morning, it needs to be the very first thing you do when you wake up before you go to the bathroom or do anything else. Otherwise, the only other requirements for this course are that you have a notebook or journal and a writing device. So to recap, you need a string of beads. And it doesn't matter what these are. It can be a mala, it can be a rosary. And honestly, what works best is to simply make your own string of beads, a journal, and a writing implement. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. What is autosuggestion or the Mala method? This exercise is a simple way of reprogramming your background behaviors, habits, or characteristics. You're doing this by changing the way you approach a problem, utilizing active visualization and positive reinforcement when your mind is most relaxed and you have the most access to your subconscious. Classically speaking, this will normally occur immediately before you go to sleep and immediately upon waking. And when I say immediately upon waking, I mean literally the second you wake up, before you go to the bathroom, before you get out of bed, before you start your day. In both of these cases, there is a loosening of the mental body or mental field, one in preparation for sleep, one because you are immediately coming out of sleep. And at this point in time, you can use a prepared phrase, softly repeated over and over again. And this will go in and overlay your background programming. As a practical matter, I have seen the Mala method do in a matter of months what years of psychotherapy have not done for many people. It is an incredibly effective tool for changing personal behavior. As was alluded to in the introduction to this course, this was one of those tools that were frequently used in meditative orders to allow an individual to change their own behavior on their own terms. You see, it's one thing to use negative reinforcement to force somebody to do something. For the most part, they're only going to stick with it as long as that axe, so to speak, is hanging over their head. But when you reprogram your own background beliefs, maintaining adherence to a certain set of rules, what some people would call precepts, is much easier. And because you're going to utilize positive reinforcement, is something someone looks forward to doing. So to recap, the Mala method utilizes active visualization, a prearranged suggestion or phrase. It is utilized to override existing behavior, and it utilizes positive reinforcement. And all of this is done in a part of your day where you are most open to this kind of suggestion. So let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the role of background beliefs, habits, and behaviors in terms of the results you get from the meditative process. The fact of the matter is, most beliefs people carry with them, they absorbed passively, either as a result of education, how they were raised, the place they grew up in. Sometimes these come apart as a part of your life experience. You had certain experiences in the workplace or growing up, and this ended up determining what you believe in. Sometimes these behaviors are positive, sometimes these behaviors are negative. Our habits, likewise, generally form as the result of the efforts of other people, such as the habits your parents instilled in you growing up, or through seemingly random events. Again, these can be beneficial or harmful depending upon what those habits are. As part of the meditative process, we aim to change those things about ourselves that are not conducive to our practice and well-being. Most people have to go about this through the matter of pure force of will. And here's a problem with that. We only have so much willpower in a day that we can devote to a given task. So finding ways to do this that lessen that load or require fewer active decisions, pretty helpful. This is where autosuggestion comes in. All right, so how does this happen? Well, it happens through the act of active visualization, the utilization of a prearranged phrase, or if you will, precept, and repeating that to yourself over and over again when you are in a highly suggestive state. In this case, immediately before sleep because you'll be tired, and again immediately upon waking because you still haven't moved around, those defensive energies within your body haven't laid themselves out fully. So that is the role of your beliefs and habits in terms of using autosuggestion. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss how magic is active visualization. One of the operating rules of magic, or the meditative process writ large, is that anything visualized strongly enough at the astral level, assuming it is in fact physically possible, will eventually manifest on the physical. Now, this is not to say that there will not be a lot of work involved or significant effort on the part of the individual attempting to manifest this. That is a separate issue. But we talked a minute ago about how you want to use positive reinforcement to achieve a goal. Okay. And we spoke a little bit about how this can be viewed as a precept or rule by which you are going to live. And we said a little bit more about how you have to actively visualize this. Well, this is when we are going to get into that now. Once you've determined what it is you want to change about yourself and how you will voice that in a positive command to yourself, hence autosuggestion, it's not a matter of just saying the words. You need to actively visualize the end state. Whether that's an idealized version of the body that you want to inhabit, or an in-state goal. So because of this, these precepts that you come up with, or rules to live by, in order to achieve a specific end state, can be open-ended strategic ones like, I eat low carb, or they can be more strategic like, I will earn my degree in law in 3 years. Those more tactical ones, the I will earn my degree in law in 3 years, come and go. They have a lifespan, and when they're over, they're gone. In either event, be it strategic or a tactical end state you're looking for, you need to have a positively defined vision of what that needs to be. Because here's the thing about magic. When you visualize that thing on the astral, i.e. the inside of your mind, the better you can visualize that end state, the more likely you are to achieve your goal. The less positively you identify that end state, the less that energy you're generating in that subtle realm can cohere around something to manifest it into the physical world. So when you come up with this saying or phrase or precept, if you will, you also need to say the words and visualize strongly what it is you're looking to have happen. Again, in a positive manner as it applies to you. Also keep in mind, because your physical form and body are the grounding agent here, this kind of auto-suggestion can only work on you. It doesn't really work on other people. So if you're looking for something to happen for someone else, you need to utilize a different technology. A tool like vaulting comes to mind, but that is a discussion for a different time. So again, to recap, when you are engaged in this activity of working with the string of beads for auto-suggestion purposes, you need to actively visualize your end state, what it is you want to happen. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the role of positive reinforcement in auto-suggestion. As a practical matter, positive reinforcement uses pleasure to reinforce a given behavior. When you're attempting to modify your personal behavior, this becomes really important because positive reinforcement lessens the requirement for willpower to do the job for you instead, i.e. making yourself do something that you might not really want to do. Using positive reinforcement in this manner results in something becoming a habit. And when something becomes a habit, compliance becomes passive and you don't even bother thinking about it. So, in a minute, we're going to talk about the need to build what we call a precept, or rule that you choose to live by, for lack of a better term. These rules always need to be coached in terms of positive reinforcement. For example, I am a non-smoker, not I don't smoke. In one case, you are actively visualizing something that you are. In another case, you are actively visualizing something you don't want to do. So, regardless of what the issue is that you wish to address, or the thing that you wish to change about yourself, it needs to be done from the position of positive reinforcement. So, say you're overweight and you want to lose weight. Okay, fair enough. You can't say, I don't want to be fat. That doesn't work. Or I don't want to overeat. Again, that's negative reinforcement. Instead, you're going to say something that supports whatever dietary strategy you plan to use in order to achieve your goal of weight loss. So you say something like, I eat low carb 6 days per week. Okay. Or I am a raw vegan, if that is the approach you choose to take. Again, I cannot tell you what approach to take. All I'm stating is that whatever your tactic is for what you want to do, the precept or rule that you choose to live by needs to be designed with positive reinforcement. Now, there are a few exceptions to this. First of all, if you have a serious narcotics problem and it's something that you simply cannot be around, you may need to use negative reinforcement for this. Here's the problem with that. It may get you over that particular behavior, which is good. The bad side to this is it automatically sets up a kind of internal conflict that has to be dealt with later on. So negative reinforcement does work over the short term. Just understand that it tends to reveal some other issue internally that has to be addressed. So again, this is something you are going to have to think long and hard about regarding whatever that issue is that you need to address utilizing this technology. And this brings up another issue, that these are your issues to deal with. And we will get to that in a moment. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the role of practice design. First of all, it is very important to keep in mind that the act of autosuggestion, otherwise known as the Mala method, is not a form of self-help, and it is not something to be shared with others. This is one of those moments where silence is strength, as we like to say in hermetics. Secondly, this is not an act of self-help. What you are engaging in is an act of self-transformation. This is an alchemical act, an act of changing who and what you are. This is something you do for you. You're not doing it for anyone else. The result of which is, it is quite simply no one else's business what you were doing. Their insight to this, or comments about it to be more specific, specifically regarding the degree to which you succeed or fail on a daily basis, are not helpful. Do not share this with others. It is for you. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into the practical mechanics of what's going to happen here. First of all, you need to have something to work with. This rule to live by, that will be a long-term adaptation to your behavior, needs to be something that you consciously design. So I would advise you to sit down one afternoon and write down 5 or 10 or 20 things you would like to do differently with your life. I would strongly advise in the beginning that this is a strategic level goal. Either one governing weight loss, how much you want to exercise, how frequently, how you want to make your living, something that fundamentally transforms who and what you are from one thing to another. And it needs to be something that's going to take time. You can also have a list of more tactical goals like, I will graduate college in the next 18 months. That's fine too, but save those for working with later on. And the reason why I say that is, it's very easy for you mentally to go, well, I was going to do this other thing anyway, so how much did the technique really help me? On the other hand, if you are using this to transform a deep-seated behavior like not smoking anymore, it's much harder for cognitive dissonance to slip in and make you think this didn't work, or more to the point, to undermine it. Also keep in mind that as you work on these things, you will fail. You will fail a lot. That's okay. What will happen is you will slowly lose that behavior that you wanted to get rid of or transform. Eventually you'll forget about it, and sooner or later you will just do the new thing as a matter of habit, and not even remember this thing that you used to do. So it's not a matter of you do this technique a few times, the light switch gets thrown, and you're a different person. This is an alchemical or transformative experience. It's about changing who and what you are over time. So, how do we go about doing this? First of all, you need your string of beads. And again, I'm not partial as to where you get these from. A rosary, a mala, or ideally one you make yourself works just fine. But it needs to be single purpose, and it needs to be what you use for this reason. You can also have a notebook with your chosen precept or rule in it, along with a pen. You will perform this for 10 to 15 minutes directly before bed and immediately upon waking. Again, before you get out of bed to go to the bathroom or do anything else. Out of that list of precepts that you come up with, you're going to want to choose one to work with. And this is important. You can really only work with one of these things at a time. So you will choose the issue you wish to work with. For 10 to 15 minutes immediately before going to bed, you will hold your string of beads in one hand, and you will start counting the string of beads while stating whatever your phrase is. And could be, I am a non-smoker. When you get through that string of beads, and again, you will be saying this slowly and quietly. If someone's in bed next to you, they may not even be able to hear you. That would be ideal. So then again, this is one of these rare techniques where you don't need a separate practice place, and you're going to be using it in a place that you're going to sleep anyway. So the string of beads should be long enough so that as you quietly state whatever your statement of positive reinforcement is, by the time you get through the whole beads, it should take about 10 to 15 minutes. And you will want to state this quietly and softly at a whisper, just above or just below that point where someone else can hear you. It needs to be done quietly. Then you do this every morning and every night, every time you go to sleep, every time you wake up in the morning. For most people, this will take anywhere from 30 to 90 days to completely transform the behavior. You will know you have succeeded and you can move on to your next issue when you don't even think about doing that thing anymore. In fact, you may find yourself quite surprised and go, wow, I haven't had a cigarette in 3 weeks. Because you've naturally given up the behavior. And the way this works is simply that immediately before sleeping and immediately after waking, your subconscious is a little closer to the surface of your mind. So a quietly whispered phrase has a much better chance of being absorbed into that state. So again, 10 to 15 minutes every morning and every evening for anywhere from 30 to 90 days should be enough. And then once you're done with that particular precept sinking in, move on to the next one. It's not very complicated, it doesn't use up a lot of time, and it tends to utilize time that for the most part goes to waste for the majority of the population. So, let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss how posture is not needed. Posture is not needed for this exercise as, ideally speaking, you should fall asleep as soon as you are finished practicing it in the evening, and you should get up and move around as soon as you are finished in the morning. So this is one of those rare techniques where actually lying down works better than being seated or standing. The reason for this is quite simple. The more relaxed your body is, the more your subconscious can come to the surface. The fact of the matter is that when we're sitting in posture properly, or standing, a large part of that subconscious part of your body is busy trying to maintain your balance. This is something you don't actively think about. It has to go on in the background because it would be too hard to consciously maintain your balance and do anything else. So being flat on your back or in the position that you plan on sleeping in actually works best for this. The only hard part is going to be to keep from falling asleep once you're done practicing the string of beads. It's okay, this will happen a number of times. It just takes a little bit of practice to get used to it. It also benefits you that in this state between sleeping and waking, you begin to get some insight into what's going on with your subconscious. Do not allow this to frighten you. Some people will even see themselves speaking to themselves. It's an interesting experience. But keep in mind, your subconscious is you. It's just a part of you you may or may not understand very well for a variety of reasons. So again, I added this small clip in here as a reminder that this is one of those few techniques you don't want to do utilizing any kind of asana or body posture, because the act of entering that posture ties up some of that bandwidth that your subconscious has while it's busy maintaining your body position. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss who can practice this technique. This is one of those techniques that virtually anyone can do, young or old, man or woman, child or adult. The only requirement is that they have the ability to willingly commit to a choice of action. And this is important. This isn't something you can really give to someone else. This has to be internally generated. So while it is a very valuable technique, you should not use this technique to force other things upon people. And as was spoken about earlier in the course, this really only works on yourself. You can't really actively visualize this for anybody else. So, simply put, anybody can do this. All they need is a string of beads, even one made by hand, and in some cases a string of beads you make for yourself actually works better. And you should only practice one issue at a time for an extended period of time until that rule becomes habit and you achieve the result looked for in that rule. Let us begin.